Hey everybody, thought I would make a wrap-up video to this Nazca line work I've been doing. It's just apparent to me that if this was indeed the function of the Nazca lines to extend them out over the whole Earth, it seems to me somebody was using these to map the Earth a long time ago. When you take the lines out of Nazca here, this is from my video from a couple days ago, if you take the lines out of Nazca and you extend them around the Earth and they all converge at Angkor Wat, it just looks like a modern-day globe with latitude or longitude lines. That is just what it looks like. That's just common sense. So that brought up a couple other issues that I wanted to go over, and one of them was the very first upload I did was Graham Hancock talking about these really ancient maps that are really strange and mysterious. This is the Piri-Reis map. And this was made about 600 years ago, and it was drawn off much earlier maps that haven't come down to us. And what's really interesting about these is it shows the Earth very accurately, and it even shows the northern coastline of Antarctica, and that is something we did not discover until the 1800s. So how could that land surface be mapped on this ancient map? Somebody had to be mapping and charting the Earth a long time ago, and maybe, just maybe, it was done out of Nazca. Now, another thing that was brought up was maybe this was the old equator of the Earth. This line starting at Nazca, going through Angkor Wat, and then just going around the world. A direct line between Nazca and Angkor Wat. Now, that is very interesting. If this was indeed the old equator of the Earth, then the old North Pole would have had to been in southeastern Alaska. So that's kind of a tough concept to grasp, how the Earth would have got thrown off its axis by so much. And then I remembered a couple uploads that I have done, and one of them, Michael Tessarian talks, or he quotes from a book by Allen and Dallaire called Cataclysm Earth, one of the best books on an ancient cataclysm that happened around 12,000 plus years ago, where we were hit by something big, maybe a fragmented comet or asteroid. The Clovis people went extinct at this moment. The woolly mammoth and many other species of animals went extinct. We had a mini ice age, and it was just one of many devastating things that happened at the end of the last ice age that I believe was the reasons why we lost this lost civilization. But it says this: studies have shown that at 10,178 BC, or over 12,000 years ago, the celestial pole was inclined at an angle of 30 degrees from its present position. This in turn strongly suggests that the terrestrial axis then oriented differently from today. So, maybe this indeed was the old equator of the Earth. And what we are going to do now is we are going to go on a trip around that proposed ancient equator, and you're going to find it most interesting. And here we start off from Nazca, and we're going out into the Pacific, where there really isn't anything. And what you notice is it skirts right alongside this remote island, the only island really out here anywhere. And what is this ancient island? It's Easter Island. The fact that this line goes pretty much right next to it, and before sea levels rise would probably have gone right over land. So that is very interesting. Now we're just going to keep on going around the Earth here, and this next thing I want to show you pretty much right on this ancient line. And if you're talking about just off by some few miles out in the middle of the Pacific, that's pretty much a direct hit. But it's this site right here, and I wouldn't have even thought about this if I didn't have this place marked, and it just happened to fall right next to this line. But I want to show you what's down here in case some of you don't know. But I found this on another guy's channel a while back, and I did an upload just to show people what's down here. But what's really interesting, I don't know how much you can trust Google Earth, but down here on the bottom of the ocean, right next to this line, is this giant spire coming out of the bottom of the ocean. Oop. Now, I don't know how much we can trust Google Earth, and I don't know how well I can operate my computer right now, but that is what it looks like. And it's thousands of feet high, and it pretty much falls right on this old ancient equator, if you want to believe that. Okay, I'm going to get my north-south lined up again here, and we are going to keep on going. And the next spot, of course, it crosses is Angkor Wat right here. And if some of you don't know what Angkor Wat looks like, this is what Angkor Wat looks like. It's just a beautiful ancient sacred temple, and it's really huge, and that is what it looks like. So we'll go back to Google Earth now. Keep on going around the Earth on this ancient equator. And in Pakistan, it almost goes right next to Mohenjo-daro. And if any of you know the strange, weird history of Mohenjo-daro in the Indus Valley in Pakistan, that's interesting. And if we continue this line around the Earth, what would an ancient alignment be without it going... I'm going to show you this here. Here are the Great Pyramids, and this line goes right between, pretty much right over the base of the middle pyramid. So that's how accurate this ancient line is as far as being aligned with Giza. It's going right through the Great Pyramids. Now we're going to back out. Hope you're patient, following along. But this ancient line is very interesting. And it comes back into South America here. And the last spot, it goes right by Machu Picchu also. And also I did an upload today, and I will leave the link below for that. But what it also goes right over, and I'm talking right over, is the ancient fortress of Ollantaytambo in Peru. And here is Ollantaytambo, and you can see that that line comes right up the valley, which is pretty amazing. That ancient equator line goes right over Ollantaytambo. So I thought that was, I mean, literally right over it. So that tells me that Ollantaytambo is a very ancient place. And the Inca have built there, but the original foundation, I believe, is from this lost civilization. And we're back out at Nazca. So this ancient equator, you would have had Easter Island, Angkor Wat, Giza, Ollantaytambo, and Nazca all on this line. And we have evidence that maybe the Earth was thrown off its axis a long, long time ago, around 12,000 years ago. So maybe, indeed, this was the ancient equator of the Earth, and all these ancient sites, Easter Island, Nazca, Giza, Angkor Wat, maybe they were all put on the equator, and that is the answer. I don't know. I just think that is a very interesting theory, especially with the evidence that maybe a long, long time ago, the ancient North Pole was up here in southeastern Alaska, and I'll try to find the links for anybody who wants to read into that. And one last thing. I want to show you this. Down here at Giza, from Giza up to this proposed North Pole is 6,215 miles. From Nazca up to this North Pole is 6,215 miles. From Nazca to Giza is 7,677 miles. So if you plot that out on a piece of paper with a base of 7,677 and angles going, or the two sides going up 6,215 miles, if you put that up on a piece of paper, a flat piece of paper, you are going to have a triangle, a pyramid with angles of 51.5 degrees, the exact same as the Great Pyramid. Is that just a coincidence? Seems to me ancient sites were marked all around the earth by sacred geometry and other things, and I just find a whole bunch of things very interesting about this Nazca to Angkor Wat line. Maybe it definitely was a possibility that this was the ancient equator of the earth. Hope you thought this was interesting.
Scientists are warning that the magnetic fields are shifting, the poles may flip, and things could get really, really, really bad. Ladies and gentlemen, Rex Bear Leak Project, how the heck are you? Just when you thought it couldn't get any more exciting, you decided to go to youtube.com/clandestine Time Lord and watch Leak Project. I know, it's crazy. It's one of those addictions you don't like to admit, but here it is. Now, what's fascinating is the shield that actually protects the Earth from solar radiation is literally under attack from within, according to this article. This article has been written by Alana Mitchell and just came out. Great article. I'm going to leave a link in the video description box directly from undark.com. But let me just share this with you real quick. Well, you just look at it. What you are looking at right here is an illustration showing the animation of the movement of the North Magnetic Pole at 10-year intervals from 1970 to 2020. Yep, that's right, 50 years, a half century. Now, the red and blue lines indicate declination and the difference between magnetic north and true north depending on where one is standing. Yeah, you have to be standing in a particular location. So if one is standing on the green line, a compass would point to true north. There you have it. Absolutely incredible. So what does that mean? What does it mean? Well, let me just share with you a quick excerpt from this fascinating article. Here it is. Now, it was originally titled, "The Magnetic Field is Shifting, the Poles May Flip, This Could Get Bad." For the past several decades, geophysicists have attempted to answer the question with satellite imagery and math. Yep, that's right, figuring out how to peer deep inside the Earth to the edge of the molten metallic core where the magnetic field is continually being generated. And some might say, well, Rex, what about the hollow earth theory? Well, maybe there's compartments inner Earth, but maybe not necessarily the center of the Earth. Maybe it is. Maybe this is all highly concentrated, you know what, swamp gas from Uranus that is reflecting off of the sun simulator that bounces off of the flat Earth that actually creates these magnetic fields to shift. Okay, bad joke. But what they have discovered, literally, after finding out how to peer deep into the Earth with these satellites, according to many researchers and scientists and people at the cutting edge, and they're not even from NASA. How awesome is that? What they have discovered is the dipole, which is the orderly two-pole magnetic field our compasses respond to, is literally under attack from within. Could it be the reptilian shapeshifters from the inner Earth that could be messing with the magnetic fields? Could be, but probably not. Now, the Earth's magnetic field is a protective shield of our planet, keeping dangerous solar and cosmic rays at harm's bay. Yep, as the poles switch places, or attempt to, the shield weakens. Scientists are also estimating that it could waste away to as little as a tenth of its usual force. Now, let's take a time out here. I have been tracking the radiation levels since 2013, since January of 2013. And as I've shared with you many times before, if you're new to the program, the radiation levels have slowly increased about 50% on pretty much a countrywide scale from everywhere I've gone. And it used to be out here, at least in San Antonio. Now, let me take that back. I wasn't tracking all states in 2013. I was tracking some states because I did a lot of traveling, but not all. So I can't say that. What I can say is in San Antonio, the radiation levels used to hang out continuously at 0.07 microsieverts per hour. Nowadays, they're hanging out at 0.1, 0.12, 0.15. I've seen it up to beyond 0.2. Now, that's not an alarmingly high level as far as microsieverts per hour are concerned, but what is alarming to me is the fact that it's slowly increased. And it's increased over 50% over the past 5 years. I also want to give a huge shout out to My Patriot Supply. They're offering Leak Project listeners right now some incredible deals on their website, specifically for Leak Project listeners. Now, if you want to have a little bit of survival insurance or a whole bunch, you can actually get 70 mils, 25-year shelf life, for less than $70. Now, there is a limit to 3 per order, so 210 mils for less than $200. That's less than a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Hello! So definitely check them out. They've got some great deals on water filtration systems, on organic seeds, on a bunch of stuff that you could put in your survival insurance safety vault. Definitely check it out. Now, quick shameless plug. You'll thank me later. Great deals, though, right? I mean, seriously? 70 mils for less than $70? That's awesome. Just click the link. But the magnetic field as a protective shield. Now, let's talk about the chemtrails for a minute, and the geoengineering and the stratospheric aerosol injections, and how, these international treaties are saying, look, we need to keep the temperatures at a specific point, otherwise the ice caps and all the ice sheets are going to melt, and the coast is going to disappear. Much of the coast now is going to disappear. Well, then they say, well, we found 91 volcanoes underneath the Antarctic ice sheets and Antarctica. Newly discovered, supposedly. So, what if, where am I going with this? What if there's actually this global application to block the entire planet and cool the planet? What if it's also going to be used as a solar radiation and some type of protective shield, because they know that the poles are going to shift? So this is their way to protect the Earth as much as possible if the poles shift. I'm also listening to an awesome song right now. This is a song that is, where is it? Well, it doesn't matter. It's off of the Batman soundtrack. Hello. Where's it at? Yeah. The Dark Knight. All right. So anyway, if you add this to the podcast, if you add some background music sometimes, it just makes it that much cooler. Anyway, I digress. What if they're attempting to protect the planet as much as possible, and they're trying to put some type of force field around it? Because imagine these magnetic fields weakening to a tenth of the current strength, or of what 10% of what it should be. Imagine the damage to satellites, to infrastructure, to the digital web, but also to biology, plant life, human life, etc. It would be catastrophic. And what if this, and they have been talking about this for years, how they found these poles are shifting, the magnetic poles are shifting, without a shadow of a doubt. There's plenty of evidence. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be like a quick instant pole flip, but when you read and do your research, they say, according to the experts, that it usually takes 1,000 to 10,000 years for these poles to completely flip. Yet they say last time it happened, it probably happened within a lifetime. What if it was within 24 hours, 48 hours? For example, let's get deep here for a minute, folks. The Adam and Eve essay by Chan Thomas. This bad boy, if you could even find one, I can't even find them now. They're over $1,500. And good luck finding one that's autographed. This bad boy is autographed. Hello. Check that out. By the man, the legend himself, Chan Thomas. Thank you, sir. May the force be with you. This describes how when the poles shift, how when there is Armageddon and when things get really, really bad, within 24, 48 hours, it wipes out virtually all life on the planet. And then it can take a long time to rebuild. And it describes how it happens is this gray matter releasing from the inner Earth, causing like almost a nuclear explosion inside of the Earth, which causes the poles to, which causes, no, sorry, not, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, the tectonic plates to move, mass tidal waves, earthquakes, volcanoes, complete chaos, complete catastrophe. The question is, what causes that little blip? And archaeologists have uncovered timelines on these global cataclysms. And Chan Thomas has also done that in his essays. And you can pick up a PDF of this at the on certain alphabet agencies' websites. Just go to the vault. You can download it. Just put it in a search engine. You can find it. This guy was onto something. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made that material classified, and then because of freedom of information, declassified it years later. And a lot of people think that the film 2012, a lot of the stuff from that film came from this book, from this essay. But maybe we do have hope. Maybe these stratospheric aerosol injections, maybe they've got a plan to attempt to prevent the Earth from being wiped out from solar radiation. Now, there's even a discussion in this article at Undark, Truth, Beauty, Science, describing how satellites, when they get too much solar radiation, then it compromises their information. They actually lose memory. Losing memory? Think about that for a minute. What about human beings being walking DNA farms that have server capabilities, storage capabilities, walking DNA server storage facilities? People want me to do a thing on gray goo. They want me to do a podcast on the black goo. Well, they've got DNA self-replicating computers now, folks. That sounds like gray goo to me. Self-replicating. Combine some nanobots in there that can rewrite things at the cellular level. You could throw in some nanobots and some sewer water and create CDs. I mean, wow. So, do people even listen to CDs anymore? I'm sorry, MP4s, okay? All right, I've still got CDs. I'm just saying. Compact discs. Have you ever heard of them? Some people, they're like, what's that? Anyway, all right. You know, do you guys, anybody listening to this podcast right now have like LPs? Like we're talking the albums, scratching the albums? Any DJs in the house? I remember growing up, friend of the family, his basement was like full of records. Probably 20,000 records downstairs. It was awesome. Okay, so they also discuss how streams of particles from the sun, galactic cosmic rays, enhanced ultraviolet B rays, radiation damaged ozone layer, etc. What about the satellites? What about the infrastructure? What about the nuclear reactors hooked up to satellites? What about what's going to happen to the oceans? What's going to happen to, if the ozone loses 90% of its ability, does that mean that water will actually leave the ozone so it won't recycle back in the Earth? Is that what happens to certain planets that have been around for X amount of time? They start off as water worlds, end up as deserted wastelands. So doing the research, it says, let me do a little more, let me share this with you. The time spans of these random distributed, with most being between 0.1 and a million years. So they're saying anywhere from 100,000 to a million years is how often these pole shifts happen. On average of 450,000 years. Last time this happened was about 780,000 years ago, give or take a few years. And they say the last time it happened, it could have happened very quickly within a human lifetime. Yeah, you don't say. Kind of like when they find giant woolly mammoths with food that's micro-froze, and they're like micro-froze, just instantly. A brief, complete reversal known as the last jump event occurred only 41,000 years ago during the last glacial period. This only lasted about 440 years. The actual change of polarity lasting 250 years approximately. During this change, the strength of the magnetic field weakened to 5%. Boom. It weakened to 5% of its present strength. So those are called geomagnetic excursions, when they attempt to do a complete shift and it goes back or it doesn't make it. That happened about 40,000 years ago. So chemtrails blocking the sun. Could this be because of this magnetic reversal? Poles flipping hundreds of times in the past. Last time 780,000 years ago. We're way overdue. What does that mean, folks? Well, I say it means buckle up. Enjoy the ride. I wouldn't worry about it. I would certainly be aware of it. I would keep track of, back in 2011, 2010, 2012, there was a lot of this going on. Remember all the birds that were dying? And birds are connected to these geomagnetic fields for, navigation purposes and such. I remember that, just go back, look up on the news a few years ago, they had to change flight paths. They had to change lights on the flight runways because the digital GPS stuff was not working properly because they were picking up these, geomagnetic anomalies and such. And it reminds me of a heartbeat, and it reminds me of how everything is cyclical. And, I get into this, people talk a lot about the flat earth theory. Even creation is cyclical. The point, the cyclical event, everything is cyclical. People talk about how water turns flat. Well, look at water droplets, they're round. I mean, I feel that even the universe is, even though it's infinite, you could probably express it as circular, but dual circular, somewhat like an 8. And then you've got the polarities. Once again, you've got the poles on the planet. You've got just the way that everything works. It's always in motion. It's not stagnant, constantly moving. And the oldest texts known to man that have been translated, and I'm going to share some of this stuff with you guys later today, that describe 4 previous, we're in the 5th generation of humanity on this planet. The original beings were ethereal. It wasn't until level 3, until the 3rd generation, that they actually got physical bodies. And there's a lot that you don't know about, folks. So for those of you that might feel like when you watch some of these films and read about some of the stuff like J.R. Tolkien, The Hobbit, and dragons and goblins and folklore, there's probably a lot more truth to that, especially when you find through the Sumerian mythos, through the Egyptian mythos, even the Greek mythos, the Roman mythos, beings that were half human, half beast. The genetic manipulation that took place thousands of years ago has been discussed through these tablets for thousands of years as well. And these stories predate the tablets themselves. I mean, these stories could go back hundreds of thousands of years. The Sumerian king list goes back over 400,000 years. And why would they be so off on the Sumerian king list timeline when that civilization was so accurate with their records and everything else when it came to numbers and keeping track of things specifically? The DNA, folks, it's the DNA, the manipulation. Certain beings feeling like they have the right to play God and keep us suppressed after they create us, because you go to these Gnostic texts that talk about how we were created greater than those that created us, or at least Adam was, the type 1, type 2. Now, I'm going to have to do some research if he was level 1, 2, or 3, Adam, in the Gnostic texts. H.P. Blavatsky, Helena Blavatsky, This lady is brilliant. Reading through her work is just incredible. Her vocabulary, the way that she articulates things and describes things so fluently, so poetically, yet symbolically, with infinite growth for yourself when you read through it. It's fascinating. She has translated these ancient texts and put it in the secret doctrine. Mind-blowing stuff. Spirit-growing stuff. Absolutely. So make sure to check out later today, live, I'm going to have Robert Stanley on the show, 8 p.m. Central. Be there or be square, and you want to be round, because it all starts with the circle. That looked more like a pyramid, didn't it? Circle, pyramid, cube. The Borg cube, the infinite circles, and the triad, trifecta, pyramid power. There you have it. There you have it. So now that we know that we're long overdue for a magnetic pole shift, now that we know the possibility of why they might be doing this global application of geomagnetic engineering, maybe they're attempting to divert this stuff. And it's so freaky that they're actually having to come up with conspiracies to offset it. I think there's a whole bunch of reasons, folks. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they definitely do it for weather modification. They're definitely doing it to attempt to keep the planet cooler. Yet I wonder if there is an application in play that we don't know about to also act as a protective barrier around the planet, as some type of force field, kind of like the film Highlander 2, where they have to create a force field around the planet because they destroy the ozone, and then the ozone rebuilds itself. Well, maybe they're doing this because of this oncoming geomagnetic pole shift. There's probably something in play. Maybe they've got nanotechnology around the planet right now, like these little, nanobots that are rewriting the ozone at a code level, and they're learning how to create this like cellular biological force field. Now the question is, though, if they do that, if there's a force field protective around us and something happens internally, like an internal explosion, like this gray matter still releases or something, maybe there's planets outside that are starting to orbit closer that they're not discussing with us. They're releasing new planets on an almost weekly basis that they find with these telescopes and math they're using, etc. It's not just 10 planets in the solar system with the sun and the moon. They're discovering hundreds of planets that orbit the sun, that are outside of the Kuiper Belt, etc. But how much effect do these planets have when they get closer to ours? And how much effect... Go back to 2011 when they talked about how Venus flipped. Good luck finding that information now. That was all over back in 2011. You could look it up, how Venus actually flipped. So then imagine all the asteroids and comets and space debris, galactic debris that planets can bring in as well. Swamp gas from Uranus, ladies and gentlemen. Watch out for it. Thank goodness they love us so much. Be excellent to each other. Make sure to subscribe, youtube.com/clandestineTimeLord. Also go to leakproject.com. Become a premium member today because it's awesome, because you want to, because you have access to over 1,500 podcasts, downloadable, streamable, ad-free. Listen to them on the way to work. Listen to them out in the desert. And there's over 200 podcasts exclusive to leakproject.com. Also, make sure to support our sponsors. The more you support our sponsors, the more podcasts I can do. And then maybe we can get a mobile studio and I can meet you guys out on the road, and then we can get reporters all around the world to bring information in from their neck of the woods. And then we could have hundreds, if not thousands of people networked and have a really cool media platform on Leak Project to get all this news, information, fringe out to the people if they want to see it. Also, 24-hour a day, 7-day a week streaming channel. If we get hundreds or thousands of people independently to share information and knowledge with the Leak Project, then it would be very easy to do a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week program, which is so many different topics and so much material, it could definitely take a mind of its own. So there you have it, the wave of the future. Be excellent to each other, like Bill and Ted. Let's save the world by being excellent to each other. Why not? What else are you going to do? Be the change you want to see.